Hi everybody, welcome to another video. Just before I start, just a great thank you to everybody. We passed 1,000 subscribers, which is probably 1,000 more than I thought we'd ever get. So thanks to everybody who subscribed and everybody who does in the future. Thanks very much. So what we got today, it's the cheapest spray gun or mini spray gun, spray gun full stop, I could find on eBay. At the time it was £10.79, which is about equivalent to 14.5, about 14.5 US dollars. So you know, if you know those two currencies, you can work out in your own currency. So it's cheap, very, very cheap. And the idea of doing it was just to see whether these cheap guns are worth their money. I know it's not a lot of money, but you know, are you better off saving for a good gun? Is there a place for them in the market? I suppose that's the idea of it. So as I say, I found the cheapest one I could possibly find on eBay. No doubt they're on Amazon as well, but I normally use eBay more than Amazon, don't know why, but I do. So I thought I'd give it a go for base coat and clear coat, which is what we're doing. So we're starting off with the base. The first thing you notice about it is how obviously cheaply it's made. I mean, it is a very cheap unit, but it does spray, which is, you know, obviously part of the game really. What you notice is that the fan is very, very small. If you see on the right hand side when I start spraying, you'll see the small little spray outs I do, and I normally do this just so that people can see what the gun is like really. And the fan is very, very small. I suppose in actual size it's 2 inches, so about 50 millimeters, somewhere around there. So it's about the similar size to an LPH 50 with a 0.6 tip. So this is a 1.0 tip. So we know that it's going to be a very small fan. As soon as we try the fan, we know it's going to be a very small fan. So when you're actually using it, you have to bear that in mind. So you're going to have to do like I'm doing here, just very small strokes close together, because there's the idea. I normally go for about a 2 times overlap, if that makes sense. So each part of the tank or whatever you're doing gets 2 coats from that particular application. Does that make sense? So you're trying to go over the same area twice each time you put a coat on. Hope that makes sense, but that's what I'm trying to do. So obviously if you're aiming for that overlap to give you 2 coatings each time you spray it, then with such a small fan you're not going to be able to go up in very high increasements, because you need to keep it really tight. So as long as you bear that in mind, it actually sprayed okay. The fan wasn't top heavy, wasn't bottom heavy, it wasn't a problem at all. I've had these in full size guns years ago. I got a full size one, and it was a bit heavy at the top, and if you turn it around, it went a bit heavy at the bottom, so the cap wasn't sort of regulating the pressure between the 2 air horns correctly. So if you get a reasonable pattern, you stand a chance of getting a reasonable finish. And you know, these things being so cheap, what I'm thinking to myself is putting something like this up on YouTube. Anybody that watches my videos will know that I have a huge range of spray guns. I'm a bit of a fanatic when it comes to spray guns. Some of them cost like £550. So I am fully aware what a good spray gun can do and what it is like. So when I'm using this, I'm looking at this purely from the point of view of is it worth someone spending the money on this instead of using spray cans? Because spray cans are, you know, if you get a mix to your colour, etc., are getting dearer and dearer these days. So if you've got a compressor lying about, then investing 10 quid in a spray gun, I would say, is worth it, because it gives you far more control. I mean, like this sort of gun doesn't give you as much control as the better guns, because you know the fan adjustment is virtually nothing. You know, it does go to a spot fan, but as I say, the full fan is only like probably twice the size as a spot fan. So you're not going to sort of like get a huge range of adjustments, but it does give you much more adjustment than a spray can, because with a spray can you've got nothing really. You've just got your speed and your distance really to adjust things with. So, as I say, I think it's worth doing the video just to show people that if you buy a really cheap spray gun, you can get a reasonable result. Did I enjoy using it? Not really. No, it's a horrible piece of equipment. It feels awful in the hand. It feels really cheap. It feels, now this is not taking a pop at SATA, because I like especially the big SATAs. But the smaller SATA 4400 that I've got, it feels a bit similar to that in the fact that it's quite uncomfortable, and that's because it's made similar in that the adjustment for the fan is right by your thumb, so you have to hold the gun awkwardly, and that's the only way I can say that it makes me feel, the SATA makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable holding it, although the SATA is obviously well made. This is not. So the actual feedback and pleasure to the person spraying is zero, effectively. But this is the base coat finished. It gets the job done, and it gets the job done admirably. So it's definitely a place, I think, for something like this. It's not a knockoff, so I deliberately haven't tested a knockoff against the original one. It's just a generic, it's called the H2000. It's just a generic cheap spray gun. I have no idea. There's probably 100 different names for this in 10 different colours, but it's all exactly the same gun. So it's just a generic spray gun. But it is definitely worth, if you're thinking, should I get a cheap spray gun or should I stick to spray cans? It's definitely worth, I think, getting yourself a cheap spray gun, just to give you, as I say, that little bit of versatility and adjustment, and the ability to use different products as well that you can only get in a made for spraying form rather than out of a can. So it's definitely worth it. As I say, from the enjoyment stakes, it gets the job done. But I'm not going to tell you that it's as good as anything else out there, because it's certainly not. But as I say, it gets the job done. For me, I'll stick a couple of links on the description. But for me, there's a little ANI GF3 which I've championed a bit, because most people have completely overlooked it, and it sells for about 28 GB pounds, which is about 37 US dollars. So it's a cheap spray gun, as spray guns go, but it's actually a cracking little spray gun for that sort of money. If you can afford more money, then by all means buy a better spray gun. But it actually performs really well. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, it's nearly 3 times, two and 3/4 times the price of this. Is it worth going for the GF3? And I would say yes, every time. It's definitely worth going for the little ANI, which, as I say, is still a cheap gun, but not in the same sort of cheapness as this thing. It will last a lot longer, the ANI will, and it just gives you much more control. But if you're the sort of person that's got a couple of things to do and you really can't afford it, you really don't want to afford it, then yes, buy something like this, because it has got a place in the market, I think. As I say, the limiting factor is the really, really small fan. But as long as you're only doing things like this and smaller, it's absolutely fine. I was having a conversation with somebody. I think it was on Instagram, or I can't remember. It was Instagram, Facebook. It was one of the networks I use, and they were saying about what I was saying about the DV1S because of the price of it, and they were talking about, well, you should only really use it for small things. Which, okay, yeah, it's a minigun, so you should only use it for small things. I get that. But I've got loads of miniguns that are miniguns, mini-stroke miniguns, that you can use for small things, but they're perfectly capable of doing bigger things with ease. And I know the DV1S is as well, but that's where my complaint of it being slow comes in that other guns can handle it just as well, and they're half the price. So that was, I'm not criticising the DV1S, it was just I'm criticising the price, basically, is what I was saying. So anyway, back to this one. As I say, you'll see the finish at the end. When the base coat is finished, it's a high resolution 4K video. There's a high resolution 4K video coming at the end of this after the clear coat. It's a cheap clear coat, so the clear coat's not helping the gun in any way. 1.0 tip. I used it at 2.1 bar. I had no idea what to use it at. I just had a little play with it and thought, well, I think that's probably about right. And it turned out to be absolutely fine. You put it up too much more, and I think it over atomizes a bit. It starts to make the base coat go on a bit dry under that, and you get more orange peel. So 2.1 bar was, I found, absolutely ideal. And you're in a situation where you've got the spray gun there with a cheap gauge on it, and the gauge is worth over twice as much as the gun. But anyway, here's the final finish, and I think you'll agree. This is a custom colour. It's a rose gold, and actually looks really nice. I think it looks really nice. I think you'll agree it came out really, really well. So thumbs up to the cheap Chinese spray gun. As I say, if you can afford something else, then go for it, because your experience will be much greater. But there is a place and a market for something like this, and I would definitely recommend it. If you've got a compressor hanging around, spend a tenner and get one of these spray guns and get yourself some paint and lacquer and do your thing. All right then, guys, thanks very much. And as I say, thanks for all the subscriptions and that, much appreciated, and the likes and the comments. You keep liking them, and I'll keep making them. Thanks very much, guys. See you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.